Don't expect us at your wedding. We're busy. That was the message my dad left me. On a sticky note. Not a call. Not even a text. Just a yellow sticky note stuck to my fridge like I was some tenant he barely knew. I stood there, holding my wedding invitation in one hand, and that stupid note in the other. My heart didn't just break. It shattered quietly and completely. But if that was how they wanted to play, fine. I was done being the good daughter. They thought I'd stay silent, that I'd keep helping, that I'd keep paying. They forgot one thing. I was the one paying for everything. And when I took it all back, they'd finally feel what I'd felt for years. My name's Emily. I grew up in a small town in Ohio. You know the kind. Everyone knows everyone. And the houses are close enough that your neighbors know what you're having for dinner before you even sit down. From the outside, my family looked normal. My dad, Tom, worked as a foreman in a local steel plant. My mom, Diane, stayed home after I was born. We weren't rich, but we had enough. At least, that's what I used to think. But growing up, I started noticing things. The way my dad talked to me, like I was a burden, not a blessing. The way my mom looked the other way every time he belittled me. You'll never make it past this town, Dad would say whenever I brought up college. You're not built for more. I laughed it off, trying not to let it cut too deep. But it did. I was the only kid. No siblings to lean on. No one to share the weird tension in the house with. I learned to survive by overachieving. Straight A's, part-time jobs, scholarships. I applied to colleges in secret because I knew they wouldn't support it. When I got in, with a full ride, I told him at dinner. Dad didn't even look up from his plate. You think you're too good for us now. And Mom just picked up the dishes like nothing had happened. Still, I left, moved 3 hours away and worked my butt off. I waited tables, interned, studied late into the night. No help from them. No support. But I made it. Graduated. Got a decent job in marketing. Met someone. Fell in love. His name's Chris. He's calm. Kind. The kind of person who asks how your day was and actually listens. When he proposed, I cried. Not just because I loved him, but because he was the first person who made me feel like I mattered. When we started planning the wedding, I hesitated about inviting my parents. Chris convinced me, though. They're still your family, he said gently. So I mailed the invitations. One to my childhood home, where they still lived. I thought maybe this time they'd show up for me. Until I found that sticky note. I'd driven home to visit, hoping to talk, to share the news in person. When I walked into the house, it was quiet. No hi, no welcome back. Just silence. And then stuck to the fridge with a magnet, like a cruel joke. Don't expect us at your wedding. We're busy. Not even signed. I stood in that kitchen, the same one where I used to pack my lunch, where I had cried at that table when I didn't make the volleyball team, and felt nothing. No more disappointment. No more hope. Just cold, clean clarity. I realized something in that moment. I had given them everything. Paid their internet, their water. Covered $9,800 in rent over 2 years when Dad lost his job. They were living on my dime while treating me like I didn't exist. So I walked out and started planning something I should have done a long time ago. The day I found that sticky note, something inside me snapped, but not in a loud, dramatic way. It was a quiet kind of break, like the sound of paper tearing in a silent room. I sat in my car outside their house, gripping the note, my jaw tight. I wasn't crying. Not anymore. I stared at the porch I once waited on every day after school, hoping my dad would be in a good mood, hoping my mom would say something nice for once. But I didn't know this house or the people in it anything anymore. Still, I gave myself 24 hours before reacting. Chris noticed something was off when I got home. He reached for my hand and said, "What happened?" I handed him the note without a word. He read it, then looked up at me, eyebrows furrowed. "They're not coming." "They never planned to," I said, my voice flat. He tried to comfort me, but I was already far past needing comfort. I was tired of being numb. I had paid their rent when they were behind, transferred money when their heat got shut off. I had even put their car in my name when their credit got too bad to qualify for registration. My dad used to joke, "Guess we raised a good little investor." He had no idea how true that was. But what made it worse? It wasn't just the note. A week before that, I had called my mom to talk about the wedding seating chart. She answered with a sigh, like I was interrupting her. "Oh, you're still going through with that?" I thought Chris would have wised up by now. I swallowed hard. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," she said quickly. "You just can be a bit much sometimes." That's how they always spoke to me, like I was a stray dog that followed them home, something to be tolerated, not loved. I was done. The next morning, my phone buzzed. It was my dad. Not a call. A text. "Got the water bill. It's overdue. Can you send $130? That was it. No hello. No apology. Just a demand. So I replied, "I'm not paying it. Figure it out." A minute later, he called. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. And again. Finally, I picked up. "What's going on?" he barked. "Don't get cute with me." "I'm not being cute," I said calmly. "I'm being done." "Done with what?" "You," I said. "All of it. I'm not your bank. I'm not your therapist. I'm your daughter, and you've never acted like that meant anything to you." There was a pause, then a bitter laugh. "You think you're better than us now, huh? Just because you went to college and landed yourself some guy." "No," I said quietly. "I think I deserve better, and I'm finally going to act like it." Click. He hung up. 2 days later, I got an email from the rental company. Their lease renewal was up. They needed a co-signer again. They had always needed a co-signer since my dad's credit was wrecked, and I had always stepped in. This time, I didn't respond. Instead, I called and told the office I wouldn't be involved anymore. No renewal. Then I opened up my bank account and disconnected every autopay linked to their address. Electric, gas, water, internet, all gone. They'd get the notices soon enough. And then there was the car, their prized old Toyota Camry. My name was still on the title, solely. They'd practically begged me to put it under my name when theirs got declined at the DMV. "You're responsible," they had said. I was. So I made one final decision. I called the donation center, arranged a pickup. They'd come, take the car, and gift it to a veteran support group. Not out of spite, but because at least someone deserving would get use out of it. I signed the title and smiled. It was the first time I'd smiled in days. I wasn't burning bridges. I was watching them crumble because I stopped holding them up. You'd think that once I made the decision to cut them off, I'd feel nothing but freedom. Like I'd be dancing in the streets, finally unchained. But the truth? The silence hit harder than I expected. After the car was picked up and the utilities got shut off, I didn't hear from them. Not a text. Not a call. Nothing. I kept waiting for an explosion, maybe, or even just a message asking why. But there was just emptiness. And in that emptiness, the memories came creeping in. The nights I stayed up, tutoring myself through algebra because Dad said he was too tired to help. The birthday when they forgot the cake and told me to stop being dramatic. How they always praised themselves for how independent I was, never realizing it was because I had no other choice. One night, I sat alone in my apartment. Chris was on a work trip, and I had no distractions. I pulled out my wedding binder, guest lists, color swatches, seating charts. And then my eyes landed on the RSVP list. Their names were still there. Tom and Diane, parents of the bride. 2 empty seats that I'd been stupid enough to reserve. I stared at the paper until my eyes burned. Then I got up, went to the kitchen, and poured myself a glass of wine. I stood there, holding the glass, feeling every emotion I had buried for the past 2 decades. I wasn't angry. I was exhausted. How many years had I bent over backward just to earn a drop of their approval? How many times had I convinced myself that their love was just buried deep, that if I just did enough, tried enough, succeeded enough, they'd finally see me? It never worked, because their love wasn't buried. It just wasn't there. And still, a part of me felt guilty. Was I going too far? Should I have just let it go? Chalked it up to bad parenting and moved on? Maybe I was the problem, right? Maybe I was too sensitive, too emotional. That's what they always said. The next morning I got an email. It was from the rental company. Apparently, they were 2 weeks behind on rent. And guess what? They listed me as their emergency contact again. Without my permission, I stared at the screen, my jaw tight. Then I called the office myself. I'm not responsible for them, I said. I revoked any ties months ago. The woman on the phone hesitated. They said you'd handle it. You always have in the past. Yeah, I always had. Because I was too afraid of what would happen if I didn't. Because I thought love meant suffering in silence. After I hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed, my hands shaking. That guilt came back, stronger this time. It clawed at me like a parasite. What if they lost the apartment? What if they were out on the street? What if this was my fault? And then another memory hit me. I was 12. It was winter. Our power had gone out during a snowstorm, and I was shivering under layers of blankets. My dad was supposed to pay the bill, but he forgot. And when I cried, he snapped, "You're not the only one cold. Toughen up." That night, I remember swearing to myself, one day I'd be warm, and not just with blankets, but with real love, real safety, real kindness. That warmth wasn't in that house. It was in the life I had built. I looked around my apartment. The photos of me and Chris, the framed college degree, the lamp my best friend gave me as a housewarming gift. I had fought for every bit of this peace, and I wasn't going to let them take it. Still, it hurt. Even when you break the cycle, you bleed a little. A week later, I got a letter. Handwritten. No return address. But I recognized the messy scrawl immediately. It was from my dad. "Emily, you made your point. We got your little revenge. But don't expect us to come crawling. We're not going to beg. You owe us more than you realize. After everything we did for you, this is how you repay us? Good luck with your fancy life. Don't call when it all falls apart." Dad, I read it once. Then again. Each time it stung less, because every word was another reminder. They were never going to change. They didn't see me as a daughter. They saw me as a resource, a lifeline, a wallet. And now that I was gone, they were angry not because they missed me, but because they missed the benefits. So I folded the letter, slid it into a drawer, and closed it without a second thought. It was time. Time to stop feeling sorry. Time to start reclaiming every piece of me they had chipped away at. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rebuilding. But first, I had one last thing to do. After that letter, I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over. Dad's words weren't a white flag. They were a dare. A final push that told me exactly what I had to do. I wasn't looking to scream or make a scene. No, that's not how you deal with people like them. You don't fight fire with fire. You turn off the gas. I sat down with a notebook and a cup of tea. No rage. No drama. Just a quiet storm building inside me. This was going to be calm. Clean. Final. First, I reviewed everything they were still attached to, what they had taken from me under the illusion of family. I'd already unlinked my bank from their utilities. But guess what? They were still using my Netflix. Petty? Maybe. But symbolic? Definitely. Click. Logged out. Every device. I changed the password to "You'll never change." I smiled. Next. The insurance. Years ago, I had added their car to my multi-policy for a discount. I was paying the extra without realizing it. I canceled it. Then I remembered something bigger. The car. That silver Toyota Camry they used for everything, from running errands to smugly showing up to church. They bought it with half the money from my college fund. But here's the kicker. It was still in my name. They never bothered to transfer the title. So I looked it up. Yep. Still registered to me. Still insured under my plan, which I had just ended. And legally still mine. I reached out to my lawyer friend Brian. Told him everything. He didn't even flinch. "You could literally repossess it today if you wanted," he said. "Actually, do you want to do something more interesting?" I raised my eyebrow. "I'm listening." He smirked. "Ever heard of donating a vehicle to a charity auction?" My eyes widened. The idea lit something inside me. Something poetic. Not just take it back, but give it to someone who needed it. Turn their selfishness into someone else's blessing. We filed the transfer paperwork. I had the title printed, signed it over to a local shelter that helped single moms get back on their feet. They were shocked and grateful. "I'm just glad it'll be used with love," I told the woman at the front desk. And I meant it. Then came the rent. Oh, the rent. See, after years of helping them get into that apartment, they used my name for credibility. I was the one who signed the lease first, then stepped back when they took over. But guess who was still co-signer on the renewal? Yours truly. And with rent climbing and them skipping payments, my credit was being chipped away. So I contacted the leasing office, sent official letters, and I removed myself legally from the lease agreement. They had no idea until their rent payment bounced back and the office said, "You're now fully responsible." They couldn't even get mad at me because technically I just stepped away, quietly, legally, cleanly. But the final act? The sticky note, still folded in my drawer. I scanned it, had it printed on the cheapest, roughest paper I could find, then mailed it back to them, torn in half, along with a note that simply said, "Thanks for the reminder. Now we're both too busy for each other." I didn't need to yell, didn't need to call them out online, didn't even need to block their number, because they finally felt it, the void, the absence, the silence they had taught me to live with. Now it was their turn. I sat back in my chair that evening, a candle flickering nearby. Chris wrapped his arms around me. "You okay?" he whispered. And for the first time in a long, long time, I answered honestly, "Yeah, I really am." The day their car was towed away for donation, I didn't even have to be there. The charity handled everything. They knocked on the door, clipboard in hand. My parents were confused, annoyed, then panicked. I could imagine Dad yelling, "There's been a mistake. That's our car." The rep calmly pointing to the paperwork. "Sir, the vehicle is registered under your daughter's name, and she's donated it. It's all legal." I imagine the silence that followed. My mother's face turning pale, her hand flying to her chest like she always did when drama didn't favor her. They watched their precious Camry roll down the driveway. Not stolen, given away. That same evening, I got a voicemail from my mother. "Tired. Cold. How could you? After everything we did for you." I played it twice, then deleted it. A week later, the landlord called them in. Apparently, they were being evicted. They couldn't make rent without the automatic withdrawals from my account. And no one wanted to co-sign their next lease. The cherry on top? The charity posted a thank you photo on their Instagram. A young mother standing proudly beside the Camry, smiling with her toddler hugging her leg. Caption: "Thank you to the anonymous donor who gave this mom a chance to get to work safely and start over. Your kindness changed a life today." I screenshotted it and printed it, framed it, put it right next to my front door. Every time I walk out, I remember why I let go. They tried calling again. Emails, guilt trips, even a letter that said, "Families don't abandon each other." Funny, I just stared at it. No emotion, no tears, just peace. Because now they were living in the wreckage of the bridge they burned. And I didn't even strike the match. I just refused to put out the flames. It wasn't flashy. There were no screaming matches, no public humiliation. Just the sound of doors closing one by one. And me? I didn't dance on their downfall. I just moved forward. Sometimes the loudest revenge is silence that echoes forever. I used to believe family meant unconditional love. That no matter how messy things got, you stuck by the people who raised you. But sometimes the people who gave you life have no idea how to love yours. I didn't want revenge for revenge's sake. I just wanted to breathe, without guilt, without manipulation, without feeling like I owed them my peace. In the end, I didn't break ties out of anger. I did it out of self-respect. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away, even if it's from the people who are supposed to walk beside you forever. So if you're reading this, what would you have done if your parents left you behind over and over again, and then dared to write you off with a sticky note? Let me know in the comments. And if this story touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. You deserve better, too.